How's it going, everyone? Alex back again. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about a topic that was suggested by a viewer, and that is what to look for when purchasing a 350Z. Now, just like any car out there, no matter how good they may be, what they may offer, they all have their quirks, let's face it. So this video just help anybody that's in the market for a 350Z, kind of tell you what to look for, what to avoid, typical problems that you may see. You know, some of those problems may be easy fixes, while others you're just going to want to stay away from. There's so many Zs out there for sale, and they're in, affordable price ranges that if one doesn't meet your criteria, specifications, you can go find another. So I just want to say before I start the video that these are my opinions. It's experience I've had in the almost 7 years of owning my Z and working on countless others. But ultimately, you have to decide what car is right for you. Let's get started. So first thing you're going to want to do when you see the car is obviously do a full walk around, check out the car, check for any dings, dents, scratches, all that stuff. You have to realize, depending on mileage and the year, these cars are getting up in age, so they're going to have some rock chips on the front, going to have some scratches, so that's to be expected. But you're going to want to look for anything crazy that you may see. Another thing that's important to do on the Z is identify the trim level that it is. There's multiple trim levels that come with multiple options. A lot of these options can be found online. You can plug in, the base, enthusiast, touring, grand touring, all those, and you'll see what options pop up, and you're going to want to compare that to the car that you're looking at. The one thing I can tell you about the base is it has absolutely nothing. No cruise control on the steering wheel, no radio controls, no power seats. So if you hop in the car and you see that, you're pretty much guaranteed it's a base. It also doesn't come with an LSD, so if that's something that you're interested in, you're at least going to have to look at the enthusiast. Another thing that you're going to want to do while checking out the car is you're going to want to check all the panels for the appropriate VIN numbers. Each panel, doors, fenders, hoods, trunk, all that is going to be stamped or have like a little VIN sticker on it. So you can tell if they're missing, then it could have been in an accident, could have been repaired in any way, shape, or form. My door was hit when I first got it, so it was replaced with a Nissan part. Otherwise, it'll just be a regular VIN number. So it can help you to, ask further questions, learn a little bit more about the history of the car, so you're pretty informed of what you're buying. Unfortunately, not everything shows up on Carfax. So another thing you're going to want to check for is tire feathering. That's more common on the earlier models, 03, 04. They had an alignment problem that I think was remedied in early 04. However, from what I found, the Z is very sensitive to poor alignments. It'll eat tires like crazy if it's not properly aligned. So you're going to want to go ahead and check all the tires, see if, either the edges is more rounded than the other, which is indicative of a poor alignment. This can also give you some insight on how the car was taken care of. Someone who's up to date on maintenance is going to take care of an alignment if they start to see abnormal wear. Another one of its downfalls is the window motors. Now, it's not an expensive fix. It's not hard to do. I'll actually be making a how-to on that because my passenger window is actually bad right now. So that's something to consider. If it is bad, again, it's not a hard project. It can be done in a couple hours, and I'll be shooting that in one of my follow-up videos, and you can see how to do that if you need to. Next are the hatch struts. So as the car ages, they can get kind of weak, especially in the cold, as you see here. Barely wants to stay up. This is what I'm referring to here. However, this is another easy fix. They can be purchased from Nissan, or Z1, I believe, offers strong replacements. So that's a common problem, but again, it's pretty common for a car that age if it has struts on it for the hatch. So another minor issue to discuss is the interior trim. It tends to scratch up like this. That's very, very common. So that's mostly going to affect the door panels here, as well as the radio, the main console for the radio, and the cubby hole here. That kind of gets chewed up. So if you're considering a cheaper Z, which would probably be an earlier Model Z, the 03, 04, the transmissions in those tend to have a little bit of a grinding problem as they age. The synchros that were used initially were a little softer than what the later models were upgraded to, and you tend to get a little grind from second to third and from fourth to fifth. It usually improves once the car is warm and heated up. You have to decide if that's something that you're okay with, or if you want to pass on that model and go check out something else. 05, 06, you usually don't hear about problems like that. They kind of updated the transmission with stronger synchros. So by 05, 06, the transmissions were a little bit better for shifting, more smooth. 07, 08, the HR transmissions, they're very strong. Not too many known problems with them. I will warn you that if you haven't driven a Z before and you don't know the transmission, they're pretty clunky in general. I'm not talking about grinds or pops or anything like that. It's more of a transmission that really lets you know you're in gear. Again, that's not a bad thing, but it's just something I wanted to let you guys know in case you go and test drive and think something's wrong because it's more on the rough side. It's not quite as refined as, say, a Honda transmission or something like that. So one thing that I do have to mention about the 07-08 transmission, again, which is the HR motor, they do have known slave cylinder issues. Now, these slave cylinders are usually replaced under warranty by Nissan, but the design is the same, so after a certain amount of miles, you're going to have a problem. The problem with that is the clutch pedal release from the floor back up to the top can be slowed, mostly in between high RPM gear changes. It's kind of more of a major fix simply because you have to drop the transmission. There are a couple heavy-duty options that are sold. You can look them up. Z1 has them. I believe Concept Z Performance also sells them. And I've actually installed one of the heavy-duty slave cylinders in my car along with a Wilwood Master cylinder, and I have not had a problem since. So it's kind of a small upgrade you can make that's really going to make a huge difference if you decide to go with the HR. Now, motor-wise, I don't have too much to say there. The 03 to 05 is the DE motor. It's a pretty stout motor. It's used in many, many Nissans, so it's a tried and true design. If it's well taken care of, it's going to last for a really long time. The 06Z had the rev-up motor, which unfortunately had a little bit of an oil consumption issue. It's not a huge issue in terms of performance or longevity. It's just something to note that the 06Z may burn a little bit more oil than the other models. So a possible problem that I want to just share with you guys for the 07-08Z, which is the HR motor. These tend to suffer from low oil pressure, which is due to the tearing or blowing out of an oil gallery gasket, which is in the front of the motor behind the timing chain. I've seen this happen a few times. It actually happened to myself. If you have to take it to a shop, it's going to be very expensive. I've heard price quotes from $1,500 to $2,000. So I'm going to show you the oil pressure and what you have to look for. So if you take a look at this oil pressure gauge, according to the factory service manual, it should be about 14 PSI at idle, and that'll put it right between this line here, which is 30 PSI, and 0, so right in the middle there. If you notice anything below that, my needle wasn't reading much above 0 when I realized I had a problem. If you notice anything below that, you're going to want to hook up an external mechanical gauge to it, or have them, take it to a mechanic and have them hook up a gauge, and just verify that if that reading is correct. If it is correct, 9 out of 10 times on the HR, that is the oil gallery gaskets. And if you're buying a car, you're going to want to stay far, far away from that. Just run as fast as you can. Like I said before, there's many out there, so you're going to want to find one that's at the proper oil pressure level. If the oil pressure sending unit, which is the sensor that gives you that reading, if that's reading really high, that's basically just usually a sensor, and that can affect all your Zs. That's an easy $50 replacement. But again, just to be safe, you may want to get the oil pressure checked externally and see if that is your problem. Alright, so I hope this video provided some useful information for anyone considering a Z. Now, despite any of the problems that I mentioned, don't be scared of the car. It's a great car, great package. It's a great entry-level sports car. You can experiment with some performance modifications. Like I said, every car has their quirks out there. I just wanted to mention, any of the typical problems with the Z. Just give you some stuff to look for. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date on new content that I'll be posting. And again, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks. See you next time.